Poste rode his first winner on the flat in 2002.
And Past Pride going the strongest now. Inside the final furlong, striding up towards the line. And it's Past Pride's race going on by 1.5 at the line. It's Past Pride who wins.
My father always had horses when I was younger, and I started riding when I was about 6. And he always had an interest in horses and owned a couple a few years back. And so I just came from there. And then the blacksmith that used to shoe my horses at home used to ride out for Mrs. Rees, Geraldine Rees, and he got me a job there when I left school. And then after 2 years, Mrs. Rees arranged for me to go and work with Mr. Fahy because he has a great amount of horses for more opportunities.
Do you ever say to yourself, this is nuts, why am I risking everything to do this?
I haven't yet. I suppose the day I maybe do is the day that I'll pack it all in, but it's a risky job, but at the same time, there's plenty of us not earning a fantastic living, but at the same time you're being paid to play professional sport, and it's something that you'd probably do for nothing. You see plenty of lads at the weekend going out and riding point to points and not getting paid a penny to do it, and they'd be loved the chance to get paid to do what we do. So I think we're in a lucky position, even if you're not earning a fantastic living.
And people talk about the risks, particularly on TV these days with all the different TV stations, and we'll write about it in features, etc. But as a jockey, are those risks really things that you aren't thinking about particularly? You go out and do your thing, and a bit like a car crash, you tend to think that it's never going to be you.
Of course, but I mean, it's a calculated risk at the end of the day. I mean, I think to do your job properly, you've got to be aware that there's risks involved. Otherwise, I mean, it just makes you almost a bit dangerous and foolhardy. I mean, I think when you go out and ride, you're well aware that there's a risk involved, but it's definitely a risk worth taking. And I'm sure if you asked any of the lads sat there, that you certainly don't think going out there that you're going to get smashed to bits. But it's there, but you choose to accept the risk and get on and do the job. Yeah.
You earn £157, 72 pence for each of your 3 rides this afternoon. But of course, it's not quite as it seems, because out of that you will pay your agent, Dave Roberts, your valet. If you are a member of the PGA, which I presume you are, you'll pay your PGA membership, insurance, possibly physio, and of course your petrol expenses. Have you ever worked out exactly how much out of that 157.72 after tax you actually take home?
I think probably, when you're looking at it before tax, you're probably looking at taking just over 100 quid home, which, it's not a huge amount of money, but at the same time, if you're earning £300 a day, that's plenty of people wouldn't earn that in a week, and like I say, you're doing something that you love doing, and at the end of it all, have to go and get a proper job and work for a living. So at the moment, you just got to keep going along with it and hope that, look, you might nick a winner today, and hopefully, somewhere along the line you'll get an opportunity to get on a decent horse and ride a big winner, which can make a huge difference to your season. 1 or 2 big winners can turn an ordinary season into a really good year.
And do you look at the top end of the jockey's table and say, I want to be AP McCoy or Richard Johnson or Davy Russell or Barry Geraghty or Ruby Walsh? I
mean, AP certainly has taken the bar and raised it through the stratosphere, really, for jump jockeys. He really has been a massive sort of leader in things moving forward, and I think we all look up to him and try and take things out of his riding for sure.
And in your riding, without slating yourself, is there anything that you'd love to have more time to work on in what you do? Is there something there that you'd love to be able to do that perhaps you see McCoy doing or Walsh doing?
I think for me personally, I possibly would love to be a little bit more stylish, a Timmy Murphy, Jason Maguire mould, but it's something that's never really, that I've never really been. I mean, I suppose I'd like to think that I'm someone that's will get on and push and shove and give one a ride. But I suppose if anything, I wouldn't mind being a touch tidier, like in the mould of a Timmy or Jason. But again, they're sort of people that are out on their own with the way. I mean, they're almost like an incredibly stylish flat jockey that rides jumping.
3 chances this afternoon. Give us a quick summary of each. Entertain Me, Akimoto and Lochaldar. What on paper are you hoping, expecting for as we head to the course?
I was just checking through earlier, and to be fair, there's been quite a few non-runners as well, which is, as long as they're not yours, is always handy. Entertain Me obviously won on her first start over fence at Bangor, won nicely, jumped like a buck, and we were really hopeful that she'd have a good season. She went back to Bangor on some unsuitably bad ground and kind of slipped going into the first fence, and I don't know whether she pulled herself about, but she ran no race, and I pulled her up, and she'd taken a long time to come back right from that, but she seems well at home. She scored well the other day. I'd just be hopeful that the ground hasn't deteriorated too much, and I think if we had a bit of reasonable ground, I'd be very hopeful she can put up a good show. Akimoto won last season over hurdles. He went chasing this time round, and he's run some real solid races against some useful performers all season. Unfortunately, he hasn't been lucky enough to win one. I know the owner's mindful that he'd like to keep him as a novice for next season now, so we're running him back over hurdles. On paper, it looked a competitive race, but I think there's been 3 or 4 non-runners, and on the best parts of his form, he'd have a chance, a solid each-way chance back over hurdles. And probably the best one of the lot is Lockholder, the last horse. He's won on his last 2 visits to Chepstow, and then I rode him last time at Warwick, and he finished second. I think probably in hindsight he should have won. I wasn't that happy with the ride that I gave him. He made a couple of novice-y mistakes at Warwick, which is a very different track to Chepstow, and kind of got out of rhythm, and then was always behind the bridle, and I was under pressure, and then the 2 in front stopped quickly, and I probably ended up in front much sooner than I'd have liked to have been, and I got nabbed close home, so I think probably that was one that got away. But I'm hopeful today, back to Chepstow on a slower track, he can hopefully, he'd have a real solid chance, especially as the favourite of Pipes is now a non-runner. I think he's got a great chance, yeah.
We arrive at Chepstow at 12:30 p.m. Poste wants to walk the track, as plenty of rain has fallen in the last 24 hours.
It's definitely right soft, isn't it? You know, there's been a lot of
I wonder if that is good or bad news.
Yeah, I think probably split, really. I think for the mare Entertain Me, it might be a little bit worrying. The rain might have got into her ground a bit more than she'd ideally like. Though she has got form on soft, just ideally I'd have preferred it more on the good side. For the other 2, Akimoto won on bottomless ground at Haydock, and I think he goes on most ground, but the rain actually might affect the chance of the others more than him, but he'll certainly act on it. And for Lockholder, it's definitely a positive. You know, he's won twice around here on bad ground, and all his best form is on real heavy ground, so the more rain, the better for him.
Of course, this is the last fence. This is the fence that you went over on Le Beau Bay and then went on to win the Welsh National on. But, I mean, when you look at this is solid birch. And this side actually looks a lot tougher than the approach side, which is more sort of inviting. But do you ever just think to yourself, I am bonkers, I'm riding at this thing at 40 mile an hour. If my horse doesn't take off when I want it to, I'm going to go smash, bang, wallop straight into this?
I don't think so, really, but I mean, like, crikey, you'd be lying if there's days when you're not coming racing and you're riding something that finds jumping a little bit more tricky than others. And I mean, certainly then you'd be applying yourself to making sure you get a real clear sight of what you're doing, and making sure you're setting them up nice and early to hopefully be meeting the fence on good strides, yeah.
So you're looking forward to that. When we look over the hurdle over here, which is the final hurdle, I mean, obviously a much smaller obstacle and less demanding, one would think, but then people always say hurdles falls are often nastier than fence falls.
Yeah, I think that's right, because I mean your hurdle fall tends to be a lot quicker, you know. I mean, obviously when a horse steps at a hurdle, and you tend to get rocketed into the ground, whereas certainly touch wood, as long as it's not like a rotational fall over a fence, it seems to happen a lot slower. It gives you a chance to sort of brace yourself, and you slip the reins and the horse slithers on the ground, you tend to roll off, whereas a hurdle fall, when one really grabs at one and kind of torpedoes you into the ground, they can be a lot worse, yeah.
Let's hope today's safe.
Touch wood, yeah.
At 3:15 p.m, it's time for Poste first ride. 16-1 shot, Entertain Me. Professional jump jockeys all get paid the same, so Dicking could have picked any one of them for the mount. So why Charlie Poste?
You don't get a harder worker than Charlie Poste. We've had a very, very long relationship. He works very, very hard, whatever the weather. He's totally reliable on timekeeping. And if the horse is good enough, he's certainly more than capable of getting the job done.
And racing can be a very glamorous sport, but at Charlie's level, it's not necessarily a very glamorous sport.
Glamorous? Well, I was a jockey for a long time myself. I hardly think being a jockey is as glamorous as glamour. I mean, they're all very tough, they're all superbly fit. I think it's got more and more with agents that the top 10 jockeys have the biggest slice of the cake everywhere. And I try and be a little bit like my old boss. I was brought up by the Nicholson family. And I like to be loyal to the jockeys that are loyal to me, and Charlie's definitely one of those.
In the race, Entertainme is in contention to the 6th fence, then jumps slowly at the 8th before pulling up before the 12th.
To be fair, up the straight we're fine on the bit of better ground. When you get onto this shared bend, and of course it's been poached up already, you can feel her immediately come back at you. You know, she's just getting nothing out of the ground from there on in, all the way around that turn where you're climbing. The ground is real soft and holding her, and she just hasn't enjoyed it, you know. And then she got, and then like you say, it's probably the pull her about to make her go.
It jumped
great, yeah. I wasn't going to punish her for turning, you know, at the end of the day.
Poste remains positive, but won't be back in action until 5 p.m. for Akimota in the handicap hurdle. Trained by Matt Shepherd, Akimota is a 12-to-1 shot, so seemingly in with a shout.